What if the greatest source of light in the universe is no longer natural? Now take a deep breath and imagine this with me. The sun, this incandescent giant that sustains all life on Earth, that sets time, dictates the climate, defines the biological cycle of everything that lives, may no longer be acting alone. It may have already been manipulated. And the scariest thing, this may have started long before any of us realized. For decades, space agencies like NASA have monitored every pulsar, every flare, every tiny wobble on the solar surface with obsession. But what they say publicly does not match what is recorded in confidential files. There are data, recordings, and even images that were never released to the public. And the question that no one dares to ask them, at least out loud, is, why so much secrecy? What is the sun showing that they don't want us to see? This story does not begin with fiction. It starts with records of solar anomalies detected by satellites like SOHO and SDO, anomalies that defy the sun's natural behavior, such as regular pulses of energy, unexplained gravitational interference, and even geometric patterns emerging on the solar surface, as if something was communicating or modulating what should be pure nuclear chaos. These patterns were captured, catalogued, and immediately classified. They disappeared from public databases. Scientists who pointed out these inconsistencies were ignored. Some transferred, others silenced. Why? Now combine this with the fact that in the last 2 decades, the solar cycle, which always had a predictable rhythm, started to behave erratically. Unexplained intense oscillations, sudden magnetic field changes, and an abnormal increase in sunspot activity. The curious thing? This is because at critical moments of these changes, there was direct interference from NASA in missions aimed at the sun. Satellites changed positions. Data was disrupted in real time. Live broadcasts failed precisely at times when solar flares deviated from any previously recorded pattern. Coincidence or control? There are leaked documents, little known but real, that mention the existence of solar modulation technologies based on electromagnetic frequencies capable of influencing the stability of the solar corona. These technologies would not be developed to create clean energy, but for something much darker: climate control, gravitational manipulation, or even orbital energy shields. And these are not just theories. There are records of experiments with microwaves directed at the sun, claiming scientific research, when in fact the results were never published. Why? Because they went beyond the limit of what conventional science could explain. The idea that the sun could be artificially manipulated may seem extreme, but what is more extreme, believing this or believing that an organization with billions of dollars in budget, decades of secret studies and advanced technologies would not be trying to alter humanity's only uncontrollable energy source? The answer lies between the lines of every censored report, every distorted image, every ignored anomaly. This video will show you why the sun may not be what we think it is. It will guide you through real data, hidden voices, and signs that were left behind. But be careful. The truth you are about to hear could forever alter the way you view the world, sky. And the more you connect the dots, the more impossible it becomes to accept that we are just dealing with natural phenomena. Something is interfering, something is controlling. And the sun, contrary to what you've been told your whole life, may have already stopped being a purely cosmic agent and become an instrument, a means, a tool of something or someone, with access to a level of technology far beyond current human understanding. The signs are there, in the corrupted files, in the edited broadcasts, in the exact moments when satellite images disappear from the screen. There's a hidden choreography happening right before our eyes, and the only reason we don't see it is because we've been taught not to question it. But now the question changes. It is no longer, why would they hide this? But what would happen to the world if this truth were revealed? A manipulated sun would mean that our entire belief system would collapse, and with it, trust in science, as it has been presented to date, would also fall. This isn't just about space. This is about what is being done to our reality without our consent. And if they can manipulate the sun, what else is already under control? Comment below. What's your theory about what's really happening to the sun? He writes, the sun has already been touched. If you also feel that there is something very wrong and hidden above our heads, leave a like now because we still have revelations that won't let you sleep at night. And subscribe to the channel because the next video goes even deeper into the technologies that were activated and never explains. There are moments in history when facts speak so loudly that the silence around them screams. And when it comes to the sun, the largest and most constant presence in our system, this silence becomes even more deafening. In recent years, NASA has recorded a series of solar anomalies that simply do not fit into any pattern already known to astrophysics. Events so peculiar that, instead of public explanations, what we received were abrupt cuts to live broadcasts, mysteriously interrupted audios, and entire records that disappeared from publicly accessible databases. One of the most disturbing phenomena began to be observed more frequently in 2012. Extremely intense radiation pulses emitted by the sun without any previous signal or activity that could justify them. These pulses were not connected to any conventional solar flare nor to sunspots. They just happened, appearing in a spike, affecting Earth's electromagnetic measurements and then disappearing without a trace. The most intriguing, many of these pulses coincided with failures in communication systems and even interference with military satellites, something that has never been widely publicized, but which appears in confidential reports leaked by former employees. And things get even more disconcerting when we look at the solar flares that completely disrupted the sun's natural activity cycle. Since the solar cycle was understood, scientists have always known that it follows a pattern. Approximately every 11 years, the sun goes through predictable phases of increasing and decreasing activity. However, in recent decades, solar flares have started to happen outside of any schedule, as if an unknown force was directly interfering with their behavior. And then we come to the most shocking event, the reversal of the solar magnetic field. Yes, you heard right. NASA has confirmed that the sun reverses its magnetic field at each end of the solar cycle, which would be natural, but what they don't emphasize is how different the last recorded reversal was. In 2013, the sun's magnetic field underwent an atypical reversal, misaligned, unstable, and asymmetrical. Part of the field moved ahead of schedule, while another took longer than usual, creating a kind of twisted, fragmented field. And the most suspicious? During this period, images of solar magnetic activity were interrupted in live broadcasts from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, SDO. The official justification was technical problem, but the files from that month remain inaccessible to this day. These events are not speculation, these are recorded facts. The problem is that instead of explanations, we have omissions. Instead of science, we have silence. Silence that, when repeated, can no longer be treated as a failure, but as a choice. And here is the question that everyone avoids asking: why manipulate or hide information about the sun if it is the basis of all life on Earth? The answer may be directly linked to what was never said, because perhaps it is not the behavior of the sun that is changing, but the control over it that is being exercised. If this excerpt made you question everything you thought you knew about the sun, then leave a like now, because from now on, the revelations are only going to get more disturbing. Comment below. Do you believe that these unusual pulses and eruptions are natural or controlled? He writes, the sun is being silenced if you also feel that the truth is being covered up. And subscribe to the channel, because in the next part, we'll explore what was picked up by hidden sensors and why no one dares to talk about it. Now that we have exposed solar anomalies that do not make sense within conventional science, we need to go further. We need to face the possibility that these changes in the sun's behavior are not natural, that perhaps we are not just observing, but directly interfering. And here, we enter even more delicate territory, that of celestial engineering, the use of hidden technologies developed under extreme secrecy, capable of interacting with cosmic structures such as the solar magnetic field itself. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's advanced engineering, traces of which appear in classified programs, military satellites, and underground facilities that you'll never see on a NASA tour. The key point is in electromagnetic frequencies. Today, it is known that electromagnetic fields can interfere with everything, from the functioning of the human brain to the balance of the Earth's ionosphere. And when this same technology is leveraged and directed on an interplanetary scale, something frightening emerges: the ability to influence, even on a small scale, the solar magnetic field. Specific frequencies calibrated in micro-oscillations can be indirectly reflected by geostationary satellites that orbit the planet in strategic positions. And some of these satellites, like those linked to classified US Department of Defense programs, are aligned precisely with the sun's movement, not to study it, but to interact with it. Now think, what would be the point of altering or disturbing the sun's field? What would justify risking messing with the balance of the star that supports all life in the solar system? And that's where the name that many know but few understand comes in: HAARP. Officially created to study the ionosphere, the HAARP project, High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, has already been identified by several experts as one of those responsible for testing wave propagation that goes far beyond our planet. There are records that indicate high-intensity transmissions directed to upper layers of the atmosphere that coincided with unusual solar flares. Coincidence? Or part of a solar response experiment? But HAARP is just one piece. Another even more enigmatic name appears: CERN, known as the world's largest particle accelerator. CERN is the epicenter of experiments involving high-energy collisions, matter manipulation, intense magnetic fields, and, according to some dissident physicists, interactions with solar particles. Unconfirmed theories, but based on analyses of the effects caused by secret CERN tests, suggest that its electromagnetic fields have reached levels that could, in theory, interfere with the sun's energetic behavior at long distances. None of this, of course, was publicly acknowledged. But the data is there for those who know where to look. And now we come to the most disturbing part: the reason. Why would anyone mess with the sun? Was it to contain something? Some kind of instability that cannot be revealed? Or would it be the opposite? Provoke a reaction, an event, a chain of consequences that only makes sense within a specific agenda? The question bothers, and it should bother, because if we really are facing a scenario where human, or not entirely human, technologies are being used to shape the behavior of a star, then we are talking about something far beyond science. We are talking about control of time, climate, light, and ultimately, life. This is not fiction. This is celestial engineering applied on a cosmic scale, hidden under the mask of advanced research. And the more you look, the more you realize that the signs have always been there, in patents registered with indecipherable technical language, in reports that disappear from academic libraries, in the millimetric flaws that always appear at the same moments, as if someone were testing the limits of nature itself. Manipulation of the sun may not only be possible, it may already be underway. And the question now is no longer if, but how far will it go? If this revelation made you see heaven in a different way, leave a like now, because we still have a lot to reveal about what is hidden between the sun and the intentions of those who monitor it. Comment below. Do you think HAARP, CERN, or other secret projects are trying to contain something or provoke something? He writes, they have already touched the sun, if you feel like this is all part of something much bigger. And subscribe to the channel, because in the next part we're going to talk about the signs that started to emerge here on Earth and what they indicate about what's happening to come. Then the burning question arises: why would someone manipulate the sun? What would be the reason, the real motivation behind such boldness? Interfering with our solar system's central star is not just dangerous, it's unthinkable. But not for those who understand the power that this manipulation represents. Because controlling the sun doesn't just mean messing with space, means control everything that depends on him: the climate, the weather, agriculture, biological cycles, the emotional state of the population, and even our perception of reality. Let's start with the most obvious: climate control. It's not news to anyone that climate engineering has been studied for decades, but what few realize is how much this is already interconnected with solar behavior. Small changes in the radiation reaching Earth, even on an imperceptible scale, can trigger extreme events: prolonged droughts, unseasonal hurricanes, abnormal winters, and that, in the right or wrong hands, becomes a silent geopolitical weapon capable of paralyzing entire economies, collapsing agricultural systems, and reconfiguring alliances between nations without a single shot being fired. Furthermore, there is something even more disturbing: the distortion of perception of time and seasons. The sun defines our days and nights, our harvests and celebrations, our biological clocks. Changing your rhythm even slightly can completely mess up the natural cadence of life on Earth, and this disorder directly affects human behavior. Mass insomnia, broken productivity cycles, constant feeling of disorientation. All of this can be artificially generated by subtly manipulated sunlight, but perhaps the most perverse thing is in the selective blocking of solar radiation. Sunlight carries more than heat. It affects hormone production, regulates our mood, fuels agriculture, sets the growth of entire forests. Reducing its intensity, or worse, modulating its composition, can lead to vitamin deficits, outbreaks of collective depression, agricultural collapses, and famine. And do you know what comes after that? Dependence. Dependence on artificial light, industrial supplementation, technology to replace what nature no longer delivers in an authentic way. This is where the final question comes in, but perhaps the most important of all. Modifying sunlight could be key to creating technological dependence on a global scale. Imagine a world where natural light is no longer enough to support crops, where private companies hold the patent for the correct light, where you only survive because you consume what is produced under control. This is not fiction. It is a silent control project made by light, but activated by the darkness of manipulation. If this content sparked something inside you, leave a like now, because what is to come will show how all of this can already be happening. Comment below, do you think they are manipulating the sun to dominate invisibly? He writes, the light is being controlled, if you also feel that this manipulation has already begun. And subscribe to the channel, because in the next part we will reveal how these signals are being detected in different parts of the planet, and why almost no one is talking about them. So, there is something happening right above our heads, something visible, palpable, recorded by cameras around the world, but which continues to be treated as an illusion, optical failure, or simple atmospheric coincidence. And that's exactly what makes everything even more suspicious. In recent years, a series of celestial events have caught the attention of those who still have the courage to look at the sky with attentive eyes. Solar phenomena that do not fit into traditional explanations, which defy the laws of optics, astronomy, meteorology, and which, curiously, are becoming more and more frequent. Let's start with the most frightening and undeniable, the reports about the appearance of two suns in the sky. We're not talking about mythology, but about real videos captured by cell phones and cameras around the planet. Ordinary people who, when recording the sunset, came across a second point of light next to the main star, often similar in size and brightness, but subtly displaced, like a sun shadow. The official explanation? Lens effect, internal reflection, image distortion. But why does this phenomenon occur on different equipment in different places around the world under completely different conditions? How is it possible that so many similar reports, captured by devices that vary in quality, model, and location, are all wrong? And it doesn't stop there. Another disturbing sign that has been gaining ground in records is the formation of intense solar halos, often multiple, with unusual coloring and perfectly symmetrical circumferences. Although halos are a known natural phenomenon, the frequency with which they have appeared, and mainly the intensity of the colors, which can form neon or fluorescent blue tones, exceeds what is considered normal. In many of these videos, the halo appears with distortions that suggest electromagnetic interference, as if the atmosphere were vibrating in response to some kind of unnatural signal or frequency. And here come the unexplained solar flashes, intense flashes in the blue sky, often in broad daylight, that last milliseconds and are not associated with lightning, storms, or officially recorded explosions. Several of these flashes were filmed and published on independent forums, always accompanied by the same official response: exposure, anomaly. But some of these videos were captured simultaneously by multiple people in different regions, and at that point, the technical error argument simply falls apart. What is causing these flashes? Could they be electromagnetic pulses coming from the sun, signs of tests in atmospheric technology, and finally, the northern lights in places where they should never appear? What was previously a phenomenon restricted to polar latitudes is now being observed in low-latitude regions such as southern Europe, central areas of North America, and even parts of Brazil. Auroras that appear out of nowhere, with vibrant colors and abnormal patterns, as if they were responding to something that is not being disclosed. These phenomena began to intensify precisely after unusual peaks in solar activity, which coincidentally were not widely reported. The silence is always louder when the truth begins to show itself. These signs in the sky are real. They are being seen, recorded, and discussed. But instead of generating serious investigation, they receive generic labels, weak explanations, and absolute silence from the institutions that should provide answers. It's like we're living under a veil of collective denial, where normality is manufactured even when the sky screams that something is out of place. If this excerpt awakened in you the feeling that heaven is trying to warn us, then leave a like now, because we are going to dive even deeper into what has been hidden. Comment below. Which of these signs have you seen with your own eyes? He writes, "The sky is speaking if you also feel that something much bigger is trying to be revealed." And subscribe to the channel, because in the next parts, we will expose who is behind this control and why the truth has not yet been revealed, counted. And now we enter one of the most delicate, controversial, and at the same time, most frighteningly plausible points of this entire investigation. The possibility that the sun we see today is no longer the original sun. It may seem absurd at first glance, but as we connect the data, the events, the signs, and the silences, a new hypothesis begins to emerge, that the sun, or at least part of what we perceive as it, may already be artificially replaced. And this idea, although extreme, did not arise in a vacuum. It is based on real research, public experiments, and of course projects that have never been fully explained. Let's start with the most notorious and indisputable case, the Chinese experiment known as EAST, Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak, nicknamed Artificial Sun. It is a nuclear fusion plant created to simulate the same reactions that occur in the core of the sun. What previously seemed like just an isolated scientific attempt is now presented as something bigger, with plans to expand its scale and use. But here's the detail no one talks about. Why create a new sun if we already have a functional one? The official justification is the search for clean energy. But is that really all there is to it? While this reactor operates on Earth, there is also growing rumors that there are already artificial light sources in Earth orbit, satellite technologies that not only reflect sunlight, but emit their own modulated light, capable of reproducing the sun's spectrum. Unconfirmed reports indicate that certain regions of the planet were illuminated by orbital devices during tests that were never officially disclosed. And the most curious thing is that these regions coincide with areas that have recorded unusual atmospheric behavior. Longer days, artificial auroras, absence of shadows at certain times. This is a pattern, and patterns never arise by chance. This whole movement raises a question that no one dares to face publicly. Could it be that the original sun is dying, and is it already being replaced without us knowing? It's an extreme chance, yes, but think about the scenario. An unstable sun, pulsating irregularly, emitting non-standard radiation and suffering increasingly erratic magnetic reversals. This is in the data. Science has already admitted that the current solar cycle is the strangest in recent decades. Now imagine that, instead of admitting that our main energy source is failing, the solution adopted was simply to create a replacement, or at least an interface of light and heat that simulates the natural functioning of the sun. This would explain the inexplicable phenomena we see in the sky. It would explain the glitches in satellite transmissions, the shadows that don't match, the reports of two suns, the out-of-place flashes of light, the distorted halos, and even the feeling that the daylight is different. It is as if we are living under a reality covered by a veil of controlled normality, a theater of programmed sunlight, while something much bigger happens behind the cosmic backdrop that we always believed to be untouchable. And the scariest thing is to think that, if this is true, someone already has control over what for millions of years defined life or death on our planet. A sun that can be turned off, a sun that can be reconfigured, a sun that instead of emerging from the core of a star, comes out of the command center of a project that common humanity will never see. If this content made you look at the sky with different eyes, then leave a like now, because what is yet to come could shake everything you understand as truth. Comment below. Do you believe that we are already under the influence of synthetic light? He writes, "The sun has already been replaced if you also feel that this exchange has already begun." And subscribe to the channel, because the next section will reveal how this light manipulation can be connected with changes in human behavior and in the control of collective perception. And if the sun that lights up your days is no longer the same thing that illuminated our ancestors? What if what you feel on your face the heat. That marks time. The light that defines the cycles of life is already part of something that is being manipulated, controlled, replaced. There's a reason why they don't want you to look up, because something has changed. And this change was not announced. It was not explained. She was just executed. Comment now. The light is no longer natural if you also feel that we are living under a staged sky where the truth has been covered by technology. Leave a like now, because this video revealed information that was not meant to reach you, and subscribe to the channel to continue accessing everything they try to hide before it disappears. And now, click on the video that is appearing on the screen. What if NASA already created an underground sun? It's another story with mysteries as disturbing as the ones you just discovered. I'll meet you there.